No one could have imagined that a Jajangmyeon delivery on a rainy Tuesday night would forever change the fate of one of Seoul's most powerful men and a young woman who saved his life. Meet Lee Soo-jin, 23 years old, her sleek black hair cut in a perfect Chanel bob that she trims herself to save money. Despite working 3 jobs to support her sick mother, she maintains this one small vanity: the hairstyle that makes her feel put together even in her worn delivery uniform. Her tired eyes still sparkle with hope as she navigates Seoul's neon-lit streets on her scooter. What drives her isn't ambition for wealth, but the simple desire to see her mother healthy again, to pay for the treatments at Samsung Medical Center that might give them one more year together. On the other side of this story stands Park Jae-won, 32, CEO of Park Industries, a chaebol heir whose face graces every business magazine in Korea. His sharp features and cold demeanor have earned him the nickname Ice Prince in the media. His office atop the Park Tower in Gangnam overlooks a city where his family name opens every door. Yet he hasn't had a genuine conversation in years. Success came wrapped in family expectations and corporate obligations, and every relationship in his life has been arranged for business merit. The stage is set in the gleaming Park Tower, 63 floors of glass and steel in the heart of Seoul's business district. But on this particular night, the usually bustling corporate fortress stands eerily quiet. The marble lobby that typically echoes with the respectful bows of employees now hosts only the soft patter of rain against windows and the hurried footsteps of a delivery girl whose life is about to change forever. The rain was coming down hard that Tuesday night, the kind of downpour that turned Seoul streets into rivers of red taillights and reflected neon. Soo-jin checked her phone for the 100th time, 11:47 p.m. Just one more delivery, and she could go home, check on her mother, maybe catch 3 hours of sleep before her morning shift at the convenience store. The order was simple enough: jajangmyeon, sweet and sour pork, extra kimchi. The address, however, made her pause: Park Tower, executive floor. She delivered to office buildings before, but never this late, never this high up in the corporate food chain. Her scooter splashed through puddles as she wove through traffic, her Chanel bob protected under her helmet. The delivery bag steamed against her back, a small warmth against the cold rain. As she pulled up to Park Tower, the building seemed to pierce the storm clouds, disappearing into darkness above. The security guard at the desk barely looked up from his phone. CEO's office, top floor, he mumbled, buzzing her through. Elevator on the right. The elevator was a different world, all mirrors and soft lighting, making her delivery uniform look even more out of place. Soo-jin adjusted her hair in the reflection, a nervous habit. Floor after floor ticked by in glowing numbers. Something felt wrong. She checked the delivery app again. This was the third order to this office tonight, all marked as undelivered. The previous drivers had noted customer unavailable, but the orders kept coming, each one paid with generous tips that never got collected. If you believe that destiny sometimes wears a delivery uniform, maybe it's time to join us on this journey. The elevator opened to darkness. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down an empty hallway. Soo-jin's sneakers squeaked against marble floors that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Every instinct told her to leave the food at the door and go, but something pulled her forward. The CEO's office door was slightly ajar, a slice of light cutting through the darkness. She knocked. No answer. Knocked again. Silence. "Delivery!" she called out, pushing the door open. The office was massive floor-to-ceiling windows, showing Seoul's lights blurred by rain, a desk the size of her entire apartment. And behind that desk, a figure slumped in an Italian leather chair. At first, she thought he was sleeping. Then she saw his hands clutching his throat, his face a shade of purple that didn't belong on human skin, his eyes wide with the kind of terror that comes when you realize you're dying alone. Soo-jin dropped everything. The delivery bag crashed to the floor, black bean sauce splattering across pristine marble. She was moving before her brain caught up, vaulting over the desk with an agility born from years of rushing through Seoul's crowded streets. Park Jae-won, the ice prince of Korean business, was choking on a piece of wagyu beef that cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Hold on," she said, forgetting every honorific, every formal speech pattern drilled into her since childhood. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, her small frame struggling with his height. One thrust. Nothing. His body was going limp. Two thrusts. She could feel him fading. On the third thrust, with all the strength that came from years of carrying delivery bags up endless stairs, the piece of beef flew out, landing on his massive desk with an almost comical splat. J1 collapsed forward, gasping, coughing alive. Sue Jean held him steady, her hands on his shoulders, feeling the expensive fabric of his suit and the very human trembling beneath it. When he finally looked up at her, their faces inches apart, she saw something she'd never expected in the eyes of Chable Air: raw vulnerability, genuine fear, and something else. Recognition of the thin line between life and death he'd just walked. Would you have dropped everything to save a stranger? Sometimes heroes don't have time to think. "Are you okay?" she asked, still using formal speech, her voice soft with genuine concern. He nodded, still unable to speak, his hand reaching up to touch his throat. For a long moment, they stayed like that. The CEO and the delivery girl, the save and savior, two people stripped of every social marker except their shared humanity. Then reality crashed back. J1 straightened, his CEO mask sliding back into place like expensive armor. He reached for his wallet with shaking hands, pulling out what looked like every bill inside. "Thank you," he said, his voice hoarse. "Please take this." Sue Jean looked at the money, more than she'd make in 3 months, and felt something hot and angry rise in her chest. Did he think he could buy his way out of this moment? Transform a human connection into a transaction? She pushed his hand away, harder than necessary. "I didn't save you for money," she said, bending to gather the spilled food containers. "I saved you because you were dying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" He started, but she was already heading for the door, her Chanel bob swinging with indignation. "Wait," he called out. "At least tell me your name." She paused at the door, looking back at him, this powerful man made small by his near-death experience. "Just check the delivery app," she said. "And next time, chew your food properly. Even expensive beef can kill you." Then she was gone, leaving him alone with his spilled dinner and the ghost of her touch on his shoulders. J1 sat in his office until dawn, unable to focus on anything except the delivery girl, who'd spoken to him like he was just another human being. He pulled up the delivery app, found her name, Lee Sue Jean. Such an ordinary name for someone who'd just done something extraordinary. He tried to go back to his scheduled life, but every time he swallowed, he remembered her arms around him, her fierce determination to keep him alive. By 9 a.m., he'd made a decision. "Clear my morning," he told his secretary, "and find out everything about a delivery driver named Lee Sue Jean." We have more stories like this coming, so don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. Sue Jean's morning shift at the convenience store was interrupted by a commotion outside. A truck was blocking traffic, and not just any truck, a refrigerated vehicle from Seoul's most expensive florist. She watched through the window as delivery men began unloading arrangement after arrangement. Orchids, roses, traditional Korean peonies in breathtaking displays. Her manager rushed outside, arguing with the drivers. There must be a mistake. This was a convenience store in a working-class neighborhood, not a hotel lobby. "Lee Sue Jean?" one of the delivery men asked, consulting his tablet. "All of these are for Lee Sue Jean." The entire store turned to stare at her. Heat crept up her neck as she went outside, her co-workers following like curious puppies. There must be hundreds of flowers, maybe thousands. The lead delivery man handed her a card. She recognized the expensive cardstock before she even opened it. Inside, in handwriting that was trying too hard to be casual, "Thank you for saving my life. PJW, Uni," her younger co-worker whispered, eyes wide. "Do you have a Chable boyfriend?" "No," Sue Jean said firmly, already pulling out her phone. She found Park Industries' main number, demanded to be connected to the CEO's office. His secretary tried to block her, but she simply said, "Tell him the delivery driver is calling." She was connected immediately. "Did you get the flowers?" His voice was different on the phone, younger, almost uncertain. "You sent a flower shop to my workplace," she said flatly. My manager thinks I'm involved in something illegal. Please come get them. I wanted to thank you properly. Then say, thank you. Don't turn my life into a drama scene. She hung up before he could respond, then spent her break helping load the flowers back onto the truck, ignoring her co-workers' pleas to keep just one arrangement. But Park Ji-won wasn't used to being dismissed. He appeared at the convenience store that evening, just as her shift was ending. Customers stopped mid-shopping to stare. Even in casual clothes, if designer jeans and a cashmere sweater could be called casual, he looked like he'd stepped out of a different world. His presence filled the small store, making the fluorescent lighting seem even harsher. 5 minutes, he said. Please, just 5 minutes of your time. Soo-jin looked at him, really looked. Without the crisis, without the corporate armor, he seemed younger. Lost, maybe. She glanced at her manager, who was practically pressing his face against the office window. Fine. 5 minutes. Outside. They stood by the store entrance, the evening crowd parting around them like water around stones. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with the stares. I wanted to apologize, he began, for the flowers. I didn't think. I'm not very good at normal. Normal? She raised an eyebrow. Normal gratitude. Normal human interaction. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up. Do you know you're the first person in 5 years to talk to me informally? To touch me without calculating what they could gain. He looked at her with those sharp eyes at Grace magazine covers, but now they held something raw. I don't know how to thank someone who wanted nothing from me. The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. This wasn't the ice prince the media portrayed. This was just a man who'd almost died alone in his ivory tower. You just did, she said softly. You said thank you. That's enough. Is it? He pulled out a business card. I know this might seem forward, but I'd like to offer you a job as my personal assistant. The pay is... He named a figure that made her knees weak. You'd have regular hours, benefits, everything. Soo-jin looked at the card but didn't take it. I have a job. 3, actually. 3 jobs. He seemed genuinely shocked. Why 3? She thought about explaining. Her mother's medical bills, the loans, the reality of life outside Gangnam. But what was the point? Because that's what it takes, she said simply. Look, Park SSI, you don't owe me anything. Go back to your tower. Chew your food. Live your life. She turned to go, but his voice stopped her. I order from your restaurant, he said quickly. The Jajangmyeon place. Every night. The food is, it reminds me of something. I don't know what. Real food tends to do that, she said over her shoulder. Good night, Park SSI. As she walked to the bus stop, she didn't look back. If she had, she would have seen him standing there long after she'd gone, looking more alone than a man surrounded by millions should ever look. If kindness could be currency, would the world be richer or poorer? The next few weeks fell into a strange pattern. Every night, without fail, an order would come in from Park Tower. Always the same, jajangmyeon, sweet and sour pork, extra kimchi, always with a request for Soo-jin to deliver. Her boss at the restaurant was thrilled. The tips alone were keeping the business afloat. But Soo-jin knew this couldn't continue. Each delivery became a careful dance. She'd bring the food up. He'd try to start a conversation. She'd maintain professional distance. How's your evening? He'd ask. Fine, sir. Here's your order. The weather's been nice. Yes, sir. Please enjoy your meal. But cracks appeared in their formal facade. One night, she found him asleep at his desk, drooling slightly on what looked like billion-won contracts. She quietly set the food down and started to leave, but paused. He looked exhausted, human, vulnerable. Without thinking, she grabbed a sticky note and wrote, The food will get cold. The contracts will still be there tomorrow. Eat first. She stuck it on his computer monitor and left. The next night, he was waiting with his own sticky note. Thank you for the reminder. I ate everything while it was hot. Soon, the sticky notes became their secret language. She'd leave observations. You need more vegetables. Sleeping at your desk is bad for your spine. He'd respond with questions. What's your favorite food? Do you ever take breaks? Why do you cut your own hair? That last one made her pause. He'd noticed her careful Chanel bob, the way she maintained it despite everything else falling apart in her life. She wrote back, because some things we can control. One particularly bad night. She arrived to find him on the phone, his father's voice booming through the speaker in rapid, angry Korean. She caught fragments: disappointment, family duty, marriage prospects. She set the food down silently, but as she turned to go, he grabbed her wrist. Not hard, just desperate, like a drowning man reaching for shore. He muted the phone, his father still ranting into silence. "Stay," he whispered. "Please, just stay for a minute." She should have left, should have maintained the boundaries that kept their worlds separate. Instead, she sat down across from his desk, unwrapping the judging mind while his father's silent fury filled the room. She pushed a container toward him, handed him chopsticks. He ate mechanically while she sat there, a quiet presence in his storm. When his father finally hung up, they sat in silence. "He wants me to marry the daughter of Shinhwa Group," he said finally. "Good for business." "Congratulations," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I told him no." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "I told him I won't live his life anymore." "That was stupid," she said. "You don't throw away your life for what? For the chance to eat dinner with someone who sees me as human? For sticky notes that make me smile? For the first real conversations I've had in years." He stood up, pacing to the window. "Do you know what my life is, Sujin SSI? It's contracts and mergers and people who bow so low I can't see their faces. It's sleeping pills and antacids and checking my food for poison, because that's what happened to my uncle." She stood too uncertain. This was too much, too personal. "I should go." "I lied," he said suddenly. "About the food. It doesn't remind me of something. It reminds me of nothing, of being nobody, of the possibility that I could sit in a regular restaurant and just eat, talk, laugh, live." "You can't live my life," she said quietly. "You wouldn't survive it." "Then teach me." He turned from the window, his eyes bright with something desperate. "Let me try." She laughed, but it wasn't cruel. "You want to learn how to be poor? How to count everyone? How to choose between bus fare and breakfast? I want to learn how to be real." The word hung between them, heavy with possibility. Sujin looked at this man, this chaebol prince who commanded billions but couldn't command his own life. "One dinner," she heard herself say. "One regular dinner. If you can handle it, maybe we can be friends." His smile transformed his face, made him look like the boy he might have been in a different life. "When? Tomorrow night, after my shift, but not in Gangnam. You come to my neighborhood. You take the bus. You eat what I eat. You pay what I pay. Deal." As she left that night, Sujin wondered what she just agreed to. She didn't know that Park Ji-won spent the rest of the night researching bus routes, that he downloaded payment apps he'd never needed, that he practiced informal speech patterns in his empty apartment. She didn't know that for the first time in years, he felt something other than the weight of his family name. Change begins with a single yes, even when every logical thought screams no. The next evening, Sujin waited at the bus stop near her restaurant job, half convinced he wouldn't show. But at exactly 8 p.m., she saw him approaching, and almost didn't recognize him. Gone was the perfect CEO. His hair was unstyled, falling naturally over his forehead. He wore jeans that looked new but normal, a simple t-shirt, sneakers that had never touched a red carpet. He clutched a transportation card, like a lifeline. "I'm here," he said unnecessarily, slightly out of breath. "I took the 273 bus. It was crowded." She bit back a smile. "Welcome to how the other half lives. Come on." She led him through her neighborhood, pointing out landmarks of her daily life. The convenience store where she worked mornings. The gimbap shop where Jumma sometimes gave her extra rice. The PC bang where she sometimes fell asleep studying for her online classes. He absorbed it all with wide eyes, like a tourist in his own city. The Pojangmaka was crowded, steamy, alive with the sounds of real life. She watched him fold his long legs under the low plastic table, winced slightly at the sticky residue on the soja bottles, then determinedly picked up his chopsticks. "What do you recommend?" he asked. "Everything's good here." She ordered for them tegbaki, sundae, fish cake soup, street food, comfort food, nothing that required careful chewing. When the Ajumma who ran the stall brought their order, she squinted at Jae-won. "Handsome boyfriend," she said to Soo-jin with a wink. "Better than those delivery boys who always flirt with you." "He's not my boyfriend," Soo-jin said quickly. "Just a friend." "Friends who look at you like that aren't just friends," Ajumma cackled, pouring their soju. Jae-won's ears turned red, but he raised his glass. "To new friends," he said, meeting Soo-jin's eyes. "To not choking on expensive food," she countered. They drank, and the alcohol loosened something between them. He told her about board meetings that felt like funeral processions. She told him about her mother, about the diagnosis that changed everything. He admitted he hadn't watched a movie in 3 years. She confessed she'd never been to a movie theater. By the third bottle of soju, they were laughing at things that weren't even funny, leaning into each other's space like flowers toward sun. "Your hair," he said suddenly, reaching out but not quite touching. "Why that style?" Soo-jin touched her Chanel bob self-consciously. "My mother used to be a hairdresser. Before she got sick, this was her favorite style to cut. She said it made every woman look elegant." Her voice caught. "I learned to cut it myself so I could still feel, I don't know, like her daughter, like someone who deserves to feel pretty, even if everything else is falling apart." "You are," he said quietly. "Pretty, I mean, not because of the hair. Because of you." The moment stretched between them, fragile and dangerous. Then someone at the next table started singing loudly, breaking the spell. They laughed, ordered more food, stayed until Ajumma started stacking chairs around them. "I should get you home," Soo-jin said. "Checking the time. The buses stop running soon." "I called my driver," he admitted sheepishly. Old habits. But when the expensive car pulled up to the Pojamika, he hesitated. I haven't felt this normal in years." "You did okay for a Chable prince," she teased. "Maybe there's hope for you yet." Soo-jin SSI. He started, then stopped. "Thank you for tonight, for seeing me as more than just Park Jae-won," she finished. "Everyone's more than just their name." He watched her walk away, her Chanel bob catching the streetlights. In the car, his driver asked, "Home, sir?" "Yes," Jae-won said, but he was thinking that home had never felt further away. Life has a way of making liars of us all. Soo-jin had promised herself just one dinner, just friendship, just boundaries. But loneliness recognizes loneliness, and soon their careful distance crumbled like old brick. He started showing up at her convenience store during slow hours, helping her stock shelves while badly explaining stock markets. She began leaving more than sticky notes with his deliveries. Photos of street cats, pressed flowers from the hospital garden, little pieces of the life he was so desperate to understand. The transformation was gradual but undeniable. The ice prince of business media began smiling in meetings, confusing shareholders. He instituted employee lunch breaks, horrify his father. He learned to ride the bus without checking his phone constantly, to eat ramen without burning his tongue, to bow properly to Ajummas who scolded him for being too skinny. Would you risk everything for a chance at something real? But Seoul is a small city when you're trying to hide something. The first photo appeared on social media 3 weeks after the Pojamika dinner, blurry but unmistakable. Park Jae-won, heir to Park Industries, waiting at a bus stop. The second showed him at a convenience store buying triangle gimbap. The third, the one that went viral, caught him and Soo-jin sitting by the Han River, sharing earbuds and watching the sunset. Delivery girl captures Chaebol's heart, screamed the headlines. From rags to riches. The modern Cinderella of Seoul. Is Park's ice prince melting for a nobody? Soo-jin discovered the articles when her phone exploded with notifications. Reporters were calling the restaurant, the convenience store, numbers she didn't even know they had. Her Instagram, usually quiet, gained 10,000 followers overnight. The comments ranged from supportive to vicious. "Get that bag, girl." "Gold digger alert police Scarlight. She's so pretty." They look good together. She'll never fit into his world. Give up now. Her mother saw it on the hospital TV. When Soo-jin arrived for her evening visit, she found her mother in tears. "Is it true?" she asked. "Are you with him?" "Iyama, it's not what they're saying. We're just friends." "Friends." Her mother laughed bitterly. "Men like that aren't friends with girls like us. What happens when he gets bored? When his family intervenes? You'll be left with nothing but a ruined reputation. He's not like that. They're all like that." Her mother grabbed her hand. "Please, Soo-jin-ah, I'm dying. I can accept that. But I can't die watching you destroy your life for some fairy tale." Soo-jin left the hospital with her mother's words echoing in her ears. Her phone had 57 missed calls from Jae-won. She turned it off and took the long way home. But even that wasn't safe. A reporter was waiting at her apartment building. "Soo-jin SSI. Just one comment. How long have you been dating? What's it like being with a chaebol? Are you after his money?" She pushed past him, ran up 4 flights of stairs, locked her door, and slid down against it. Her carefully controlled life was unraveling. The phone rang. Her landlord. Her boss from the restaurant. Everyone wanted to know if the stories were true. Everyone suddenly seeing her differently. Meanwhile, in Park Tower, Jae-won faced his own storm. His father hadn't summoned him to the family estate. He'd come to the office, bringing the weight of generations with him. A delivery girl. His father said, each word precise as a blade. "You're destroying our family's reputation for a delivery girl. Her name is Lee Soo-jin. I don't care what her name is." The elder Park's control finally cracked. "Do you understand what you're doing?" The Shinhwa marriage was set. The merger papers drawn. Billions of won at stake. And you're throwing it away for what? Some girl who brings you noodles. She saved my life. So send her a check. Don't parade her around so, like she's... His father stopped, composed himself. "You will end this. Now. Today. Or I will make sure she understands the cost of reaching above her station. If you touch her..." Jae-won stood, matching his father's stance. "I won't have to. The media will do it for me. Her mother's medical bills, her debts, every mistake she's ever made, it will all come out. Is that what you want for her? To be torn apart by vultures because you couldn't control yourself?" After his father left, Jae-won stood at his window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Soo-jin was dealing with the consequences of his selfishness. He'd want to be normal, to be real, but he'd forgotten that he carried a hurricane with him wherever he went. And now she was caught in its path. His phone rang. Her number. He answered immediately. "Soo-jin, I'm so sorry. I never meant. I know." Her voice was tired. "But your world and mine, they don't mix, Jae-won. We were fooling ourselves." "Don't say that. We can figure this out. I'll hold a press conference. Tell them we're just friends. And make it worse? Make me look like I'm not even good enough to date officially." She laughed, but it was hollow. "Your father visited my mother today." Jae-won's blood went cold. "What?" "Not him personally. His secretary. Very polite. Very clear. There's a job waiting for me in Busan, at a subsidiary company. Good pay, benefits, a fresh start. All I have to do is leave Seoul. Leave you. You're not taking it. My mother needs treatment. I need peace. We both need to face reality." Her voice broke slightly. "You're Park Jae-won. I'm nobody. Some stories don't get happy endings. You're not nobody." The words tore from him. "You're the only real thing in my life. I'm the girl who saved your life. And now I need to save mine." She paused. The Jajangmyeon was getting cold anyway. Take care of yourself. Learn to chew. The line went dead. Jae-won threw his phone against the wall, watched it shatter like his carefully controlled life. For the first time since his mother's funeral, the Ice Prince cried. Sometimes love means letting go. But what if letting go means losing the only thing that made life worth living? The next 3 months passed in shades of gray. Soo-jin took the job in Busan, not the one his father offered, but a position she found herself at a small hotel. She cut her Chanel bob shorter, dyed it a forgettable brown, became invisible again. Her mother's treatment continued, funded by savings and her new steady paycheck. She told herself she was content. She told herself the ache in her chest would fade. She told herself that checking Seoul News for glimpses of him was just habit, nothing more. Jae-won threw himself into work with vengeance that concerned even his cold father. He arrived first, left last, ate at his desk, carefully, always carefully. The merger with Shinhwa proceeded. His engagement to their daughter was announced, though he'd never actually proposed. He stood at corporate events like a well-dressed ghost, present but absent, successful but empty. The media called him the Ice Prince again, said his brief rebellion was over. Only his secretary noticed that he still ordered jjajangmyeon every night, letting it go cold on his desk. We have more stories like this coming, so don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. The breaking point came, as breaking points do, from an unexpected direction. Soo-jin's mother took a turn for the worse. The Busan doctors recommended a specialist in Seoul, an experimental treatment only available at Asen Medical Center. The cost was astronomical. The waiting list, years long. Soo-jin spent sleepless nights calculating impossible numbers, calling in favors that didn't exist, praying to God she wasn't sure were listening. Then, miraculously, a spot opened up. The treatment was approved, funded by an anonymous medical grant. Her mother was transferred to Seoul, scheduled for surgery within the week. Soo-jin knew. Of course she knew. But she took the gift because her pride was a luxury she couldn't afford when her mother's life hung in the balance. She returned to Seoul like a thief, keeping her head down, staying at the hospital. But Seoul, like fate, has its own plans. On the third night, exhausted from sleeping in hospital chairs, she went to a convenience store for coffee. The same convenience store where she used to work. And there, under fluorescent lights at 3 a.m., stood Park Jae-won. He looked terrible. Thinner, shadows under his eyes, his perfect suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. He was staring at the ramen selection, like it held the secrets of the universe. "The spicy one will give you heartburn," she said quietly. He turned so fast he knocked over a display of chips. Soo-jin. Her name left his lips like a prayer. "You're here. Your hair is different. I'm only here for my mother. The treatment. I know." He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne mixed with exhaustion. "I've been keeping track. Not in a creepy way. Just making sure you were okay." "I'm fine." "Liar." He smiled, and it was so sad she wanted to cry. "You look tired. When's the last time you ate?" "When's the last time you did?" she countered, noting his hollow cheeks. "Touché." He grabbed 2 ramen cups. "Eat with me?" For old time's sake. She should say no. She was already in too deep, already taking his money for her mother's treatment. But at 3 a.m. in a convenience store, with the world asleep and judgment far away, she nodded. They sat at the plastic table by the window, waiting for the hot water to cook their noodles. The silence stretched between them, full of everything they couldn't say. The engagement, she started, is a business arrangement. She knows. I know. Everyone knows. He stirred his noodles mechanically. We've had exactly 3 conversations, all about stock prices. Sounds romantic, doesn't it? He looked at her directly for the first time. "I'm dying, Soo-jin. Not like before, but slowly. Every day a little more. Board meetings feel like suffocation. The wedding plans feel like funeral arrangements. I'm 32 years old, and I'm already dead. You're being dramatic." "Am I?" He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Him at some gala, surrounded by people, looking utterly alone. "This was last week. Can you find me in this picture? Because I can't. I see the suit, the smile, the champagne flute, but I can't find Park Jae-won. What do you want me to say?" Her voice cracked. "That I miss you? That I check the financial news every morning to make sure you're okay? That I still cut my hair in this style, even though it reminds me of everything I can't have? I want you to say you'll stay." The words rushed out. "I'll break the engagement. I'll leave the company. I'll give it all up. Just stay." "And then what? We run away, live in some drama fantasy?" Your family will destroy us both. Let them try. His hand found hers across the table. I have money saved. Enough to disappear. To start over. We could go anywhere. Do anything. Just be normal. You don't know how to be normal, she said, but she didn't pull her hand away. You could teach me. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You already did. Once. Teach me again. Teach me how to live. The convenience store door chimed. A drunk student stumbled in, breaking their bubble. Sue Jean pulled her hand back, reality crashing down. I have to go. My mother wakes up early. Sue Jean, thank you for the ramen. She stood, not meeting his eyes. And for the treatment. I know it was you. I don't know what you're talking about. Bad liar. She almost smiled. Take care of yourself, dear 1SI. She left him there, surrounded by empty ramen cups and the weight of unfinished conversations. But fate wasn't done with them. The next morning, Sue Jean found him in her mother's hospital room, talking quietly with the woman who begged her to stay away from him. Her mother was laughing, actually laughing at something he'd said. Yama? Sue Jean stood frozen in the doorway. Ah, Sue Jean, ah. Her mother's face lit up. Joe 1SI was just telling me about his attempts to make kimchi. Did you really teach him to cook? J1 stood, bowing properly. I wanted to apologize to your mother, he said formally, for the trouble I caused, and to thank her for raising such an extraordinary daughter. Smooth talker, her mother said, but not unkindly. He's been here since 6 a.m., you know? Brought proper food from that place you used to work. Said hospital food isn't good for recovery. Sue Jean looked between them, confused. Yama, you said. I said I didn't want you hurt. Her mother's expression grew serious. But this boy, he's different than I thought. Stupid, maybe, throwing away his life for love, but sincere. Iomioni, J1 started. Don't Yomioni me yet, she interrupted. You hurt my daughter, and I'll haunt you from the afterlife. But, she looked at Sue Jean. I've been wrong before. About what matters. About what lasts. She touched the scarf covering her thinning hair. Time is short. Too short for fear. A nurse came in from morning rounds, breaking the moment. J1 bowed again. I should go. The board meeting. We'll survive without you, Sue Jean's mother finished. Stay. Have breakfast with us. Like normal people. And so they did. Shared hospital food in a cancer ward, talking about everything and nothing. J1 learned how Sue Jean got a scar on her knee, bicycle accident, age 7. Sue Jean learned he was allergic to shrimp, found out at a state dinner, nearly caused an international incident. Her mother told embarrassing stories about young Sue Jean's business ventures, selling handmade bookmarks, saving everyone. For one morning, they were just 3 people sharing a meal. No Chable Prince, no delivery girl, no dying woman. Just humans, connecting over kimchi and conversation. But mornings end, and reality has a way of intruding. J1's phone buzzed incessantly. The board meeting, the engagement party planning, the weight of an empire calling him back. He silenced it once, twice, then finally stood. I have to... We know, Sue Jean's mother said gently. Go, be who you have to be, but remember who you want to be. He looked at Sue Jean, a question in his eyes. She nodded toward the door. Go, before they send a search party. But at the door, he turned back. The engagement party is tomorrow night. Grand Hyatt, 7 p.m. He wasn't looking at her mother now. It would be interrupted if someone were to object, publicly, loudly, with, say, evidence that the groom loved someone else. That would be terribly scandalous, Sue Jean's mother mused. Career-ending even. Life beginning, he corrected and left. Mother and daughter sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, her mother spoke. I don't have a dress fancy enough for Grand Hyatt. Yama, what? If my daughter is going to ruin a Chable engagement party, she should look good doing it. She smiled, and for a moment looked like the hairdresser she used to be. We'll fix your hair properly. The Chanel bob, but perfect. Show them all what Lee Soo-jin is made of. I'm not going to the party, Soo-jin protested. Of course not, her mother agreed. Now, call that friend of yours who works at the department store. We need a miracle, and we need it by tomorrow night. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show up where you don't belong and claim your place anyway. The Grand Hyatt Seoul glittered like a jewel against the night sky. Luxury cars discharged their passengers at the entrance. Women in designer gowns, men in watches worth more than houses. The engagement party of the year, where two corporate dynasties would unite, where billions of won in future mergers would be celebrated with champagne and careful smiles. Soo-jin stood across the street, her heart hammering against her ribs. The dress her friend had borrowed was simple but elegant, black, classic, the kind of thing that could blend in if you didn't look too close. Her Chanel bob was perfect, each strand precisely placed by her mother's weakened but still skilled hands. She looked like she belonged. She felt like a fraud. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. Be brave, my daughter. Love is worth more than fear. Another from J1. 3rd floor, Rose Ballroom. I'll wait as long as it takes. She almost turned back 3 times. At the hotel entrance, in the elevator, outside the ballroom doors. But then she heard his voice through the doors, mechanical and flat, thanking everyone for coming to celebrate this union. She thought of him in the convenience store, already dead at 32. She thought of her mother, choosing hope despite everything. She thought of herself, delivering food in the rain, saving a life without thinking. Sometimes you save someone twice. She pushed open the doors. The ballroom was a sea of flowers and crystal, hundreds of souls elite arranged at perfect tables. At the front, a stage where Jae-won stood with a woman in a pink gown, the Shinhwa daughter, beautiful and cold as winter. His parents flanked them, along with what must be her family. The perfect corporate tableau. Heads turned as she entered. Whispers rippled through the crowd like waves. The delivery girl, here, at the sacred merger of wealth and power. Jae-won saw her immediately. His mechanical speech stuttered to a halt. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, joy, love. All the things that had no place in this carefully choreographed world. Jae-won, his fiancée prompted, confused by his silence. But he was already moving, stepping down from the stage. The crowd parted, unsure what was happening. His father's voice boomed. Jae-won, get back here. He didn't stop, not until he was standing in front of her, close enough that she could see his hands trembling. You came, he whispered. You asked me to, she whispered back, rather dramatically. I'm good at dramatic. You taught me that. He took her hands, right there in front of everyone. Soo-jin, I need to say something. To you, to everyone. Jae-won, don't. But he was already turning, pulling her gently toward the stage. His father had gone purple. His fiancée looked more confused and upset. The crowd held its collective breath. I'm sorry, he began, addressing the room but looking at Soo-jin. To the Kim family, to my family, to everyone who came here tonight expecting a proper engagement. But I can't do this. I can't marry someone I don't love. I can't live a life that's already dead. Chaos. His father storming forward. His fiancée's mother demanding explanations. Cameras flashing as society reporters realized they were witnessing the scandal of the year. But Jae-won just held tighter to Soo-jin's hand. 6 months ago, I was dying, he continued, louder now. Choking on my own success, you might say. And this woman saved me. Not just from choking. From a life that was slowly suffocating everything real in me. She asked for nothing. Wanted nothing. Just saw a human being who needed help. This is ridiculous, his father had reached them. Security. I love her, Jae-won said simply. I love her kindness. Her strength. The way she cuts her own hair because it reminds her of her mother. The way she works 3 jobs and still smiles. The way she teaches me to be human instead of just a name on a building. Soo-jin found her voice. Jae-won, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He turned to her fully. I have to ask you, in front of everyone, because I want them all to know. I want them to see that Lee Soo-jin isn't nobody. She's everything. She's the only real thing in this room full of contracts and calculations. He dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped. His father looked like he might have a heart attack. Somewhere, champagne flutes shattered. I don't have a ring, he said. I didn't plan this part. But Lee Soo-jin, will you teach me how to live? Will you let me order Jajing Mind with you for the rest of our lives? Will you marry me? The ballroom held its breath. Soo-jin looked at this man, this brilliant, stupid, brave man who was throwing away everything for her. For them, for the chance at something real. Would you say yes to love, even if it meant saying no to safety? You know I can't cook, right? She said finally. The Jajing Mayan was always from a restaurant. He laughed bright and free. I'll learn to cook. We'll learn together. Your family will disown you. Then we'll make our own family. The media will crucify us. Then we'll stop reading the news. She knelt down too, meeting him at eye level. You're absolutely insane. Is that a yes? Yes, she said. Yes, you impossible man. Yes. He kissed her then, there on the floor of the Grand Hyatt Ballroom, while Seoul's elite watched in horror and wonder. His father stormed out. His former fiancée actually smiled and started clapping. Turns out she'd been in love with her bodyguard all along. Half the room scandalized, the other half secretly envious of love that burned bright enough to destroy empires. When they finally stood, hand in hand, the room had divided. Those who stayed were clapping. Younger couples who remember what love felt like, older ones who wished they'd been braver. Those who left were already calling lawyers, accountants, damage control specialists. So, Soo-jin said as they walked through the crowd toward the exit. What now? Now! Jae-won grinned. Now we go eat real food. I know a great pojangmaka. In these clothes, especially in these clothes. He pulled her closer. Let's give a Jumma something to really talk about. As they left the hotel, Soo-jin's phone rang. Her mother. I'm watching the news, she said without preamble. You look beautiful. He looked terrified. Perfect. Yama, bring him by tomorrow. If he's going to be my son-in-law, he needs to learn to make proper kimchi. A pause. I'm proud of you, Soo-jin-ah, for being brave enough to be loved. The news cycle exploded. Chaebol Air chooses love over billions. The delivery girl who stole an empire. Park industry stock plummets as Air walks away. But in a small pojangmaka in Gangnam, two people in formal wear 8 tteokbokki and plan a life. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, but a real one. 6 months later, the headlines had changed. Park Jae-won's new venture revolutionizes food delivery. From riches to riches, how love saved a business empire. The delivery girl saw Lee Soo-jin's incredible rise. The truth was simpler and more complex. Jae-won had walked away from Park Industries, but not from business. Would have saved money and Soo-jin's ground-level knowledge. They'd started a delivery service that treated drivers like humans, fair wages, benefits, respect. It grew faster than anyone expected. Turns out, when you treat people well, they work miracles. Their wedding was small. Soo-jin's mother, in remission and radiant. A few real friends. The pojangmaka Jumma who insisted on catering. The convenience store manager who'd given Soo-jin extra shifts when she needed them. Real people who'd shown real kindness. We have more stories like this coming. So don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. Jae-won's father didn't come, but his mother did, quietly, carrying a small box. This was my mother's, she said, offering a simple silver ring to Soo-jin. She was a teacher who married a businessman. Everyone said it wouldn't work. She smiled sadly. It did, until we let the business eat the love. Don't make our mistakes. The ceremony was on the hospital roof where Soo-jin's mother had spent so many hours during treatment. Seoul spread below them, a city of 10 million stories. Theirs was just one, but it was theirs. Do you remember, Jae-won said in his vows, you once told me that some things we can control, like haircuts, like choosing to save a stranger, like deciding that love matters more than fear. You taught me that we can't control where we're born or what name we carry. But We can control who we become. And I choose to become a man who loves you every day, in every small moment, in every shared meal and midnight bus ride and morning. Coffee. I choose you, Lee Soo-jin, forever. Soo-jin touched her perfectly cut Chanel bob, then took his hands. You asked me once to teach you how to be normal, but you taught me something better. That normal is just another word for afraid. That extraordinary love requires extraordinary courage. That sometimes the best thing that can happen is choking on expensive beef if it brings the right person to save you. The small crowd laughed through tears. I choose you too, Park Jae-won, in sickness and health, in wealth and in takeout, in boardrooms and bus stops, forever. They kissed as the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of hope. 3 years passed. Their company grew, but sustainably, humanely. They lived in a normal apartment, drove normal cars, ate at normal restaurants. Jae-won learned to cook badly, but with enthusiasm. Soo-jin finished her degree, finally having time to study. Her mother lived to see her first grandchild, then her second, beating every odd with the stubbornness that ran in the family. Sometimes Jae-won would get calls from his old life, merger offers, requests to return, the family business struggling without him. He'd look at Soo-jin feeding their daughter, their son play with delivery boxes turned into toy cars, and politely decline. His father eventually showed up, older and quieter, asking to meet his grandchildren. Pride, it turns out, is a luxury even chaebols can't always afford when faced with the passage of time. Do you ever regret it? Soo-jin asked one night, watching him teach their daughter to fold dumplings. Everything you gave up? I gave up nothing, he said simply. I traded an empty throne for a full life. Bad deal for a businessman, maybe. Perfect deal for a man. Their story became a modern fairy tale, told in different ways by different people. The media spun it as a romance that conquered class. Business schools taught it as a case study in values-driven leadership. Young couples whispered it as proof that love could still win. But the truth lived in smaller moments. In the way Jae-won still ordered jajangmyeon every Friday, now eaten hot with his family. In how Soo-jin kept her Chanel bob through pregnancies and promotions, a reminder of who she was and where she came from. In how they taught their children that worth wasn't measured in one, but in kindness, that strength meant helping others up, not climbing over them. Sometimes, Soo-jin would tell their children at bedtime, the bravest thing you can do is reach out to someone who needs help, even if they seem to have everything, even if you seem to have nothing, because everyone is choking on something, and everyone deserves to be saved. Their daughter, precocious at 5, would always ask, did Daddy really almost die from beef? He did, Soo-jin would confirm. Very expensive beef. That's silly, their daughter would giggle. The silliest, Soo-jin would agree. But the best things in life often start with something silly, like a delivery girl who spoke informally to a CEO, like a chaebol who learned to take the bus, like a love that everyone said was impossible but happened anyway. Years later, when their daughter was grown and facing her own impossible love, a diplomat's son and a coffee shop owner, she'd remember those bedtime stories. She'd think of her parents, who built an empire not of money, but of meaning, and she'd choose courage over comfort, love over logic, just as they had taught her, because that's how stories echo through generations, not in grand gestures, but in daily choices, not in wealth accumulated, but in love shared, not in the life you're supposed to live, but in the life you choose to build, one delivery, one saved life, one brave yes at a time. The rain had started again, like it had that first night. But now it fell on a family dinner, all of them crowded around a table that had seen 1,000 meals. Jae-won's parents, finally part of their lives. Soo-jin's mother, gray but glowing. Friends who'd stood by them when the world watched in judgment. Their children, born into love that cost everything and given more. A toast. Jae-won raised a glass of soju. To delivery drivers and CEOs. To mothers who push their children toward bravery. To fathers who learn to bend before they break. To love that refuses to follow rules. To chewing your food properly, Soo-jin added with a grin. Everyone laughed, glasses clinking. Outside, Soul hummed with its million stories. But inside this room, in this moment, there was only one story that mattered. A story that began with a near death and became a guide to living. A story that proved love wasn't about saving someone once, but choosing to save each other every single day. And in the end, isn't that the only story worth telling? The one where ordinary people do extraordinary things for love. Where delivery girls become queens of their own making. Where princes choose freedom over fortune. Where happily ever after isn't a destination, but a daily decision to show up, reach out, and hold on. The rain continued to fall, but inside, they were warm. They were whole. They were home. Sometimes, Sue Jean's voice echoes as our story ends where it began. The person who delivers your dinner might just deliver you from a life half-lived. And sometimes, the CEO who seems to have everything is just waiting for someone to show him what he's been missing. Love doesn't care about your zip code or your bank account. It only cares that when two hearts meet, they have the courage to hold on, the wisdom to let go of everything else, and the faith to build something new from the ashes of what was supposed to be. And that, dear friends, is how a delivery girl saved the CEO, and how he saved her right back.